Hey everyone. Hello. Welcome to season 2 of Drop the Mic Monday. We're about face. I'll introduce myself. I'm Shiloh. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the membership coordinator and community care coordinator here at About Face.
Hey everybody, I'm Ollie. I'm a campaign coordinator here at About Face. I was in the Army from 2002 to 2006. And thanks for joining us on Labor Day. Hope you're at home with your friends, your family, whoever brings you joy. We're working today because we need a union. Just kidding. We just thought this would be a good day to come on and talk about labor. So let's do that. Charlie, did you want to maybe talk a little bit about the history of this holiday?
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. I'm going to give just a very brief history of Labor Day, how it came about. Um, and then we'll get into some things that are happening now around labor movement, unions, and whatnot, and how it all ties to the mic. And I think you'll hear about that in the. I'm gonna read. I wrote down the history that I'm gonna read. So yeah, let's get into it. All right. So a brief history of Labor Day. Exploitation. So when someone asks what the mic has to do with Labor Day and labor movements, the word exploitation comes to mind. The mic has always been the enforcing arm, ensuring the exploitation of land and people in service to capital and industry. So people exploited by the empire have always found a way to fight back and reclaim dignity, from indigenous peoples on Turtle Island, people who were enslaved and forced to work under unimaginable circumstances and far beyond and before. So obviously this exploitation did start with the Industrial Revolution, but it was exacerbated by the new ways in which productivity multiplied and the dire working conditions were amplified. And that's where I want to start this history of what we now call Labor Day. So let's put ourselves in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Manufacturing is king, and machinery is leading to exponentially higher volumes of production. 14 plus hour workdays are the norm. Tight, cramped, sweaty factories are the norm. Small children with their tiny hands that can fix parts in these machines, sweating next to you and working next to you, that's also the norm. And within just a generation or two, you're no longer working the land and connecting to the means of nurturing yourself and your family. And now the machine is what you know. And after a generation or two of this, workers started to get fed up. So on Tuesday, September 5th, 1882, the Central Labor Union of New York organized a parade of working class people from all industries to demonstrate the power of the working class. Over 10,000 people joined in what was basically a general strike that culminated in speeches and picnics. And then you fast forward to the next big moment for labor movement in 1886. Workers began to join much of their fight. Workers began to join together to fight for an 8-hour workday as opposed to their usual 12-plus-hour workday. Now, mind you, like many fights were going on, in that time period. And much of their fight was informed by the Lowell Mill girls of the 1840s who fought for a 10-hour workday. So on May 1st, 1886, thousands of workers in Chicago go on strike and meet in Haymarket Square to hear speeches and come together as people power. But what happens when people power comes together? The ruling class and their dogs and enforcers, what we call the police, squashed the rally of workers and in order to protect industry. And with, as we know, with police comes violence. So at least 11 are killed in the violence that ensues, and many other workers who were striking were criminalized and punished. And this becomes an internationally known event and is the inspiration for International Workers' Day or May Day, a holiday that the United States does not recognize. Instead, in the midst of the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the 1950s, May 1st, right, that day of, from the Haymarket Square, May 1st is enshrined as what's called Loyalty Day, which is a national holiday with no significance other than the sitting president makes a speech about loyalty to the US on this day each year. So they basically replaced May Day with this so-called Loyalty Day. So in the couple of years after the Haymarket Massacre in Chicago, many states start making Labor Day a state-recognized holiday. And then in 1894, another pivotal event in the US labor movement occurs. But before talking about the Pullman strikes, let's talk about the Pullman town. The Pullman town was what's called a company town, excuse me. And company towns are towns where the workers of a said industry live in company housing, shop at company stores, and then those are all owned by the individual who owns the company. So the problem of this is when the economic downturn happens, the owner's response is to cut wages. However, the housing and necessity expenses are not cut. So this is the complete exploitation of the workers. And this is what happens in 1894 in the town of Pullman and leads to the Pullman railcar factory strikes. So the American Railway Union, which was an extremely powerful union of the time, joins the Pullman railcar factory workers, and over 250,000 workers go on strike and ostensibly shut down rail traffic from Chicago down and across the West. And this garners the attention of the then President Grover Cleveland, who inserts a federal action under the guise of wanting to ensure mail delivery, which was delivered by railway at the time. So there are many other speculations as to why Grover Cleveland and the federal government gets involved, including, again, the protection of industry and capital. And who protects capital at the federal level? The National Guard and federal troops. So they join the local militias and police in efforts to, again, squash labor movement and the rights of the workers. Over 30 workers are killed in the violence that ensues. Many are injured. And interestingly, a week prior to sending the federal troops in a concession and kind of a reach for appeasement to end the strike, President Cleveland names the first Monday of September as nationally recognized Labor Day. So he's basically like giving crumbs out to see if the strike would end. This one day off was thrown our way to squash the real momentum of the labor movement. And when it didn't end the strike, the enforcing mechanism of capital, the National Guard, the military, was sent in. So all sectors of industry supported Labor Day for very different reasons. Politicians supported Labor Day because it's an easy nod, right, and thumbs up to the American worker. Workers supported Labor Day because they get the day off work, though many blue-collar workers and people in other industries do not get the day off. And the capitalist and owning class supported Labor Day because it quickly turned into a consumer day. With people off work, now they have time to buy and consume. And today, of course, Labor Day is more synonymous with barbecues, end of summer, furniture sales, than its radical roots in labor movement and the power of the people to strike and come together in solidarity. So that's very, very brief, quick history introduction to Labor Day. And yeah, I think Ollie is going to tell us a bit, like fast forward to the now time, and tell us a bit about what's going on now in the movement.
So one of the reasons that we feel like these labor issues intersect with our work is that if there is a robust workforce with living wages that people will not be a subject to the poverty drafts that impel people to join the military oftentimes. So one, I just wanted to give a shout out to Starbucks workers today who are hosting a sip-in, sip SIP-in, and they're asking that you go down to locations that are trying to unionize and not necessarily buy coffee, but occupy that space or order water using union slogans, and that this is an opportunity to build community engagement within.
I think Ollie froze, so I'll continue on, and then maybe Ollie can join us back once he's unfrozen in time. Yeah, so as Ollie was saying, there's a sip-in happening at Starbucks. Many Starbucks are unionizing. I believe the first one was in Buffalo, New York, and it's starting to be contagious and catch on. And I wanted to talk a bit about a decision that came down in May of this year. So another question was like, well, amongst members and I think curiosity amongst within myself was like, well, the working conditions, right? If unions support working conditions, and I'm remembering the working conditions in the when I was in the Marine Corps were pretty terrible. Can the military unionize? Can we come together to try to improve our situation? And the answer is yes. So the federal law from 1978 criminalizes the forming of military unions. Um, so military members who are amongst the federal armed forces cannot, it's actually a felony, cannot unionize. But the Justice Department has agreed that the law does not apply to Guard members who are on state orders. So the Department of Justice reached a settlement with union plaintiffs in Hartford, Connecticut of May this year to confirm that National Guard members on state active duty to organize and join labor unions. As a result, unions around the country can now support National Guard members who are on state orders in organizing for better conditions of employment without fear of prosecution under federal law. That's really exciting. Members of both the Texas National Guard and the Connecticut National Guard have begun to come together and unionize, and I'm hopeful that this will continue. And yeah, Ollie's back.
How far did I get? Did I finish talking about the sip-in?
We were just like reaching for our cup of water, not coffee.
Thank you. I apologize for that. The FBI is trying to shut us down as usual. Just kidding, FBI. He's probably listening. So Starbucks locations that are trying to unionize or hosting sip-ins, they are asking that you not buy coffee. So the idea is to occupy the Starbucks. You can get some water. Whenever you order something, you use a union slogan. Hi, Chingala. Okay, I'm still here though, right? Okay. So the idea is that you occupy the space, build community in your actual community with this movement of workers trying to unionize for better rights. The next topic I wanted to talk about was Trader Joe's, which is a little bit more personal to me because I used to work there. But they have had 2 stores unionized now, one in Hadley, Massachusetts. I apologize if that is incorrect. I believe it's Hadley, Massachusetts, and also in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then there's another store voting in Boulder, Colorado soon. So what sort of started this movement for Trader Joe's to unionize was the pandemic. The Hadley store largely cited that the issues that brought them to unionize were that they were given $2 an hour hazard pay, which was then taken away from them in the midst of the pandemic. And that also people who were hired during the pandemic stayed at those higher wages. Having worked at Trader Joe's, I can tell you this was a regular like issue at store 8383, putting you on blast, Concord, California, where I used to work, where you would have people hired on at wages higher than people who had been working there for 10 years. And we're not necessarily jealous of our coworkers, but this is like an intentional thing that the company does to encourage turnover. They put people out like cigarette butts. I personally quit because several people I knew were fired for what I felt were like unjust reasons. So I can speak from experience that what they're saying is going on at these stores rings really true to me. So oh, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. They also have been accused, Trader Joe's that is, of union busting. There was a wine store in the New York City area that they actually closed down when the vote came about to unionize, and Trader Joe's has tried to play it off as if they were planning to shut down this store, but the employees had no notice of the closure, and there were still several years on the lease in that building, according to people reporting in the Associated Press. So personally, these are all like really promising signs that things are getting better in the labor movement, and it's interesting what a key role the pandemic has played in this. I had a person personally in my life that went through that same experience. They were on unemployment because of the pandemic, and then their company reached out to them to come back to work with the promise of this extra hazard pay, and then they had that taken away from them like very shortly after returning to work. Do you have any thoughts about that, Shiloh, about how the pandemic's been influencing some of these movements to unionize?
Yeah, I just think that with many things, and the labor movement being one of the sectors, the pandemic uh, exacerbated a lot of conditions, and kind of pulled the veil back on the reality of how capitalism is exploiting the workers and all of us. And um, yeah, I think that, well, let's, if you're up for it, Ollie, I think we have a video um, of an interview that Christian Smalls did. He's the leader of the union, the Amazon Workers Union. And we just have a video of him being interviewed and speaking about some things that are going on with Amazon and going on for Labor Day. So we're going to watch that.
But a major win for the Amazon union after a federal labor official yesterday sided with workers in Staten Island over Amazon. The company appealed a spring vote to unionize at the JFK 8 warehouse. But yesterday, the National Labor Relations Board recommended that Amazon's objections be rejected. For more on this, let's bring in Amazon Labor Union President Chris Smalls for more on this. And Chris, a lot has happened over the course of this week, but of course, all eyes on that NLRB announcement yesterday. Quick reaction from the ALU standpoint.
Definitely excited. It's a celebratory moment for us. I'm happy and proud to share this moment again with everybody in the labor movement and the working class across the country, because if we get a contract here at JFK, it's going to be monumental for the labor movement all across the country as well.
What do those conversations with Amazon stand right now, Chris? I mean, you've certainly raised a number of issues over the years in terms of where the concerns are, the wages, but also the working conditions. Where do those talks stand?
Well, we were waiting for this hearing to come out, which we're happy that it came out yesterday, so that we can file a bargaining order agreement so that they can come to the table and negotiate a contract. So right now, we're still in stalemate because, they have a chance to appeal the decision even yesterday. But obviously, they have no base to claim that we, were influencing the election, or any of their claims about the objections were founded. So we're hoping that they just come to the table in good faith, but that oddly won't happen. And we're probably going to have to continue to push forward and fight legally as well.
And just as a reminder here, now that the next step, I imagine, is coming to the table, you hope that they can come to the table in good faith. I imagine they're saying the same on your side as well. What are you arguing for? What are you asking from Amazon to improve the conditions and the pay and all the other things that I imagine JFK 8 and other warehouses around the country as well have on their minds?
Well, the workers want higher wages. They want better benefits, better medical leave options and accommodations. They want human representation, not an A to Z app or computer or email that's firing and hiring. They want pensions. They want job security. They want longer breaks. These workers work 10 to 12 hours, only get 30 minutes, 45-minute breaks. It's not enough. And they want free college for themselves and their children, things that unions provide across this country. And that's just a few basic things. Other than that, they want dignity and respect. Amazon treats people like numbers and robots. They have a high productivity system, and they have a hiring and firing system that doesn't work for the working class, doesn't work for these communities. And they want a job that's going to be sustainable for a long time. And that's exactly what the union is going to provide.
Chris, we're going into Labor Day weekend. You certainly have a march planned for Monday. Brian was just talking about the strong support that we've started to see broadly from the public in the U.S. for the labor movement. Amazon obviously leading the way with you behind that movement. We've got Starbucks, we've got Apple, we've got a long list of names coming through here. What's the message you want to try and send with this march?
Well, I'm inviting everybody in those industries to come join us in these marches. We're starting at Howard Schultz's house, and then we're going to march to Jeff Bezos' house next. And then we're going to end up in Times Square, where we're going to have other industries speak, from Apple workers to Trader Joe's to women in the fashion industry. All these different industries from different parts of the country are traveling into New York City on Monday on Labor Day to help amplify these elections and these campaigns that we've won already, to be recognized as bona fide unions. And everybody else in these other industries that are continuing to fight, it's important that we all stand together and bond together as a union. And we're just here to bring back the real meaning of Labor Day in New York City. So I'm happy and excited to do that on Monday.
Chris, I understand that your reach is beyond just Amazon, as you were mentioning, with a number of other potential unions at other companies also going to be there. But I want to ask about Amazon specifically because I understand that you were up in Albany earlier this week, had a little bit of a run in being friend with the rest out there. I mean, what's the atmosphere right now as you try to go to other warehouses as well and try to expand what you've done in Staten Island?
Yeah, well, right now, Amazon has me as, public enemy #1 for them. So wherever location I seem to pop up at, the police end up there. And it's unfortunate that they're demonizing me like that because actually I'm protected under Section 7A, where I'm actually a former employee that can't be barred from any Amazon facility. So for them to use the police as an intimidation factor to try to stop workers from talking and engaging with me about union conversations, it's not going to work. We're going to use the laws and protections that we have as workers, and that's the reason why I continue to show up and be out there on the front lines, because it's important that my presence is there. And Amazon workers and all workers need to know their rights. That no employer can bar them if they're a former employee or if they're a part of the working class. That includes everybody. And especially at a public bus stop. Amazon is trying to privatize public bus stops. That means that there's some money in contracts somewhere in the city that we have to discover and find out why they're getting these contracts where they're privatizing public bus lines and get to the bottom of that as well, because that's not going to happen when it comes to union organizations where we can't stand outside a facility at a public space to talk to workers.
Amazon Labor Union President Chris Smalls, appreciate the time today. We'll be watching out for that event come Monday.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Ollie, do you have some reactions to that?
Yeah, I think, just to keep tying it into one of our pillars of work, which is harm reduction and counter recruitment, the things that Chris is asking for Amazon workers. Sorry that my screen's freezing and I'm starting to get anxiety. Okay, I think I'm still here. uh, what they're asking for are the needs that people join the military to have met. You know, the healthcare, the college, the food, and the housing. Like, I don't know if we talk about that enough, but the military literally offers to house you and feed you. So just once again, to get back on the soapbox, like having these be rights for all workers would really go a long way to our work in dismantling the military industrial complex. And I think when we look at other countries, who many of which are of course wealthy for because of colonial reasons, but we see that there are other countries that do have these benefits for their people, and that these are things that can be done. um, and it's just what it just it I'm glad in a way, 20 we've all made the 2020 jokes, the 2021 jokes, 2022 jokes, stuff serious out there, but I think the way that the discourse around things like healthcare for everybody and free college have gotten so much better. I think that these ideas would have been laughed at even just 10 years ago, and now they're really taking hold in the public discourse, and we're seeing like real action towards these goals, like this march, and this the victories that these workers over at Amazon have had in Staten Island and at Trader Joe's and at Starbucks, and even now the National Guard, like we said. So it gives me a little bit of hope, and I think that these are very reasonable demands that we could all be making. Like, we should all have healthcare, we should all have free education, like, full stop, to quote a coworker. How about you, Shiloh? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, very similarly, Ollie. Like, these are just basics, right? It's nothing extraordinary that's being asked for. Just the basics, and it's like unions are collective, unions are cooperative. I live by a train. Unions are people power, and when the working class comes together, they're able to flex that people power and able to negotiate from a position of strength that really threatens the owning class and really threatens capital. And their unions are able to ask for fair wages, for benefits, for a healthy and safe workplace, job training, a myriad of other work-related issues. And yeah, it's no surprise, like Chris was talking about, how when he shows up at a place, right, he has this power, this strength now, because he's fighting for the working class and for workers. It's no surprise, like he's saying, that the Mike police show up where he shows up, because the Mike will always show up to protect capital and industry and try to squash people power. And that's why they're trying to criminalize unions and unionizing, and why I think a lot of mainstream media will talk about all the pitfalls and downfalls of unions. And yeah, like you're saying, Ollie, I think the discourse is changing and people are finally starting to come together. It's about like solidarity and coming together and seeing that truly people power is kind of all we have. We have numbers. They have the money, the weapons, the blah, 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 but we have numbers. And that's what unions and worker power represents to me.
Yeah, it's really it's important to highlight how the mic represses these two. I remember, just as like an anecdotal story, while I was working at Trader Joe's, we had a shortage of avocados, and there's a bulletin in the break room that says, "We're experiencing a shortage of avocados. There's a labor strike in Mexico, but the military has been called out, and we expect that the supply lines will be," I'm paraphrasing, but we expect that the avocados will be flowing again soon. And this is like a publicly posted bulletin in our break room, right? About how the government of Mexico is going to use the military to quell this labor strike. And one thing that tied in for me later, when I first joined this organization and met everybody at a Drop the Mic tour stop, we had folks from different places come to that weren't just vets. And one of them was from Mexico. I can't remember what org she was from, but one of the things she related to us was that when she came to this country, She didn't understand why everybody liked soldiers so much, because in her experience, soldiers were always used to do just what we're talking about, to suppress the people. But in this country, it looks a little bit different, and they fool you a little bit, and they put them in different uniforms, and they call them cops. But really, in my analysis, and I think that the rest of About Face feels this way, there's very little difference between police officers and soldiers. Especially, I shouldn't say especially, but for me, what really hit me was how similar the police violence was to what I saw in Iraq when they were asking us to police people, and what happened when people were given that power over another human being. So these systems are all related. And as we try to build that people power, that's who's, really opposing us. And we always have to be mindful of that and think about, what is the system? What is its goals? Like, where is it attacking us at? Where do we build power to protect ourselves? And I think really this labor organizing is where I feel a lot of hope. I know I've already said that, but labor can really shut shit down, um, shut down ports, shut down grocery stores, shut down trucking. Labor can really affect changes in this country if they were all on the same page. And I, of course, don't speak for labor, and I'm not necessarily an expert, but yeah, that's where I really see like a huge wealth of people power, and I really look forward to trying to support that as an organization, and encouraging other vets and to do the same, and just to see how we can help this grow and build alongside our mission.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Ollie. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about we're going to wrap up, but just talk about some of the actions, some of the things that going forward. If you happen in New York, I don't think Chris said what time the march was, but it sounds like they're following the original route of the first Labor Day parade, which again was a general strike, right? 10,000 workers from all different industries, like Chris was saying, all different industries. We're all coming together in solidarity to stop the means of production, to say you can't have our labor today. And yeah, they're culminating in Union Square, which was the same for the original Labor Day parade. So that's one thing. You could do the sip-in, like Ollie was saying, at Starbucks. Go support Starbucks unionizing, and just take up space. Bring your own water. Go ahead,
There
Ollie.
was an aspect of that I forgot to mention. I apologize. I got flustered with the tech issues, but they're all also asking you to tip generously. So buy nothing, tip generously. And then anytime that you would you know how it works at Starbucks, you give them your order and they yell out your name. So the idea is that you give them something to shout out that's pro-union, right? So you can do that anywhere. There's a Starbucks by you. I know there is. Okay, I know probably some of you that's not true, but for a lot of folks, there's a Starbucks by you. So this is something that you can go do on your own. Hopefully there's already folks at that location doing it that you can meet and build some community with. So we encourage y'all to check that out. And if you want to do the official signups, you can Google Starbucks sip-in, and the appropriate links will come up, and you can get some more information that way.
Right on. Yep. Thank you, Ollie. Yeah. So let's. Also, I wanted to just bring in, because this is the first episode of our second season of Drop the Mic Monday. We're going to have these periodically on Mondays, just to bring awareness to the military-industrial complex and how it's impacting different sectors of life. And some upcoming shows will be on climate. So the military-industrial complex's impact on climate, which climate change is here. It's now. And then we're also going to have a show on the 20 plus years of the global war on terror, which is ongoing. Don't listen when they try to tell you that the wars are over. They're very much, the global war on terror is still raging. And some other shows. coming up?
We got some info that the march starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time in Times Square out in New York. If you're out in that area and you're looking to support the Amazon employees in their march on Jeff Bezos. And that hashtag for that is Hot Labor Summer, hashtag Hot Labor Summer. And they're going, I'm sorry, as I'm reading chat, they will be arriving at Times Square after rallying outside of the CEOs Howard Schultz of Starbucks and Jeff Bezos of Amazon. So it looks like Times Square is where they're meeting after those. So if you want to join them at the houses, you'll need to follow up with that hashtag and see what time they're going to be meeting at Bezos and Schultz's place.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the mic shows up to those, and you know how that's surveilled, how it's how the police show up. Yeah, so I think that's going to conclude for today's show, and we really appreciate everyone watching, listening, and supporting and the labor movement and supporting your local union. And we look forward to catching you here again. Holly?
Really appreciate y'all joining us on this Labor Day. I was just joking about us being a union. We did want to come out today and talk about this topic. So I hope that y'all got some info out of it. And I look forward to building solidarity and power with you. Thanks for joining us.